President, I bring you your children, descendants of the formerly enslaved. They have waited over 400 years to return the spirits of their ancestors back home to Africa. When the children of Africa were taken out of Africa as slaves, all they ever wanted to do was to come back home to Africa. Each and every one of them that you see, many of them are coming to Africa for the first time. They're bringing with them the spirits of their ancestors to put them to rest here.
Well. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing good from wherever you're watching me from, as usual. And I'm happy to see you. It's another wonderful time to share this platform again, to share knowledge, to share information, because in knowledge, there is power. In case you bumped into this channel for the first time, please subscribe to this channel and check out our other videos for more interesting content. So in today's video, I want us to talk about the unity of the Black people. And I am going to let us watch this video here, listen to this lady, and at the end of this video, we can have something to add to what she has to tell us. So let's just jump right into the video.
In the country of the upright man is a dream come true. To President Traore, the reincarnation of Thomas Sankara, President Traore, who has led the struggle to complete the unfinished business that was started by our ancestors and our Pan-African leaders in 1963 when they created the Organization of African Unity. During that meeting, they demanded the creation of an Africa that spoke with one voice, an Africa that was united. That journey is yet to be finished. What is happening in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger, is just the beginning of a revolution that is way past due for Africa. Africa must unite. And Burkina Faso has shown us the way. They have opened the doors. They have shown us that the bully can be defeated. That no more shall we continue to give up our lunch. That we too need to eat. And therefore, there is no negotiating with the bully. The bully had to go, and Burkina Faso showed us how to do it. So, Mr. President, I bring you your children, descendants of the formerly enslaved. They have waited over 400 years to return the spirits of their ancestors back home to Africa. When the children of Africa were taken out of Africa as slaves, all they ever wanted to do was to come back home to Africa. Each and every one of them that you see, many of them are coming to Africa for the first time. They're bringing with them the spirits of their ancestors to put them to rest here in Burkina Faso. And that's mission number one. Mission number two, we have watched you, Mr. President. You stand for everything that we have hoped for in an African man. courageous, fearless, and in their faces. France, unapologetically, you told France, pack your bags and go home. You, Mr. President, so we are here. Our third mission is to see what can we do, Mr. President, to play our part in building the Burkina Faso we want.
Ibrahim Traoré is a trailblazer in Africa who is breaking the chains of corrupt leadership that has plagued the continent for far too long. In a continent where corrupt leaders continue to perpetuate their power by installing equally corrupt successors, Traoré's voice stands out. Recently, Captain Ibrahim Traoré sent shockwaves across the continent by calling out corrupt leaders and their actions in no uncertain terms. He boldly stated that certain leaders in Africa try to keep their people in a state of apathy and continue to exploit them for the benefit of the West. He made it clear that such practices cannot continue and must stop. Traoré's words have resonated with many who have been victims of corruption for far too long. His call to action has inspired many to speak out against corrupt leaders and demand change. Talking to Africans in the diaspora who came from all over to attend Burkina Faso National Culture Week, including Dr. Arikana, Captain Ibrahim Traoré said a lot of interesting things that I will share with you. Captain Ibrahim addressed a diverse audience. He touched on several important topics that require attention and analysis. Among the issues he mentioned was the need to develop our cities and systems of health and education. He emphasized the importance of training our youth in specialized areas, such as scientific engineering, to enable us to transform our produce on-site and achieve food self-sufficiency. He called on experts in the diaspora to return to Africa and teach the young brothers, emphasizing that as long as we don't produce and transform here, we will remain slaves. Captain Ibrahim also spoke about the importance of investing in agriculture and transformation, as Burkina Faso has the potential to produce everything, and everything grows on its soils. He urged investors to consider investing in the food industry to transform our produce right here. He also highlighted the need to transform the educational system to combat brainwashing and ensure that intellectuals are not channeled down predetermined paths. He emphasized the importance of taking back control of our wealth, which has been plundered for too long, and ensuring that our children grow up in a peaceful and healthy environment. He called on everyone to unite and pass on the message of unity, particularly to the youth, who need to wake up and not allow leaders to make them slaves for others. Captain Ibrahim urged the diaspora to use their voices as ambassadors to wake up the continent, regardless of where they are in the world. He entrusted them with the mission of spreading the message of unity and encouraging the youth to take the lead in shaping their future.
Okay, well. So, the lady you have just listened to, I know you could probably be familiar with her. That is Dr. Arikana Chihomburi. And is one lady that I really personally love, and she inspires me when it comes to the spirit of pan-Africanism. Of course, that other gentleman you have seen in the video is your favorite president, the president of the year, President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. Now, we know that sometime last year, Ibrahim Traoré called out on Africans in the diaspora and descendants of Africa, that is the African Americans or the Black Americans, to come back home to the motherland to help build our home, to help build their home, to inspire people at home, to bring the know-how, their knowledge, their skill, their experience from outside to help build, a worthy Africa. First of all, we all know that Africa is the richest continent, but it is the most underdeveloped and the most overexploited as well. So it is our responsibility as Africans and Black people to change the status quo. Now, This was a video of sometime last year, but why is it so necessary right now in 2025? So I'm doing this video reaction on the backdrop of what has just been happening quite recently in the United States of America. And that has to do with Mr. Trump. Sometimes I call him Mr. Sanctions on this channel. So we know that two things have happened, not two things, a lot of things, but things that concern us here the most. So there was the freezing of the USAID, which is very vital in many, many countries across the world, and so in Africa. And another thing, so Donald Trump also decided, because South Africa was rightfully trying to counter white imperialism and apartheid by taking back land that was grabbed from South Africa and giving it back to South Africa for meaningful development and production. So Mr. Sanctions himself imposed sanctions by cutting aid to South Africa, or has threatened to do that. And listen to this very carefully. First of all, he decided to give refugee status to white people from South Africa in the United States of America. Reason, according to him, is because they are being inflicted and they are being oppressed. Why? So, this is the story. In South Africa, a country of over 60 million people, white South Africans make less than 10% of that 60 million people. However, what is most ironical here is the less than 10% of the population own over 70%, at least 70% of privately owned agricultural land in South Africa. Now, I want you to tell me, how did this white minority that came from Europe some centuries ago end up owning 70% of the land in South Africa? Tell me, what is the formula that they used to get that land? Well, your guess is as good as mine. And now the government of South Africa decided that enough is enough. It is time for justice and equity and fairness. And they decided it's time to take back land, give it back to South Africa so that it can be put into better use. Why? You'd find that currently you will find that in South Africa, a white Afrikaner family owns quite a couple thousands, and this is not even a South African phenomenon, it's even in other countries in Africa. So you find a white family owns thousands of acres of land, but it's more than enough. So they only put to use a few hundreds, if not less, and the rest is just there because they hoarded it. They got it. We know that during the apartheid rule in South Africa and during colonization in Africa, Africans and black people were grouped and forced into reserves and concentration camps. During that time, which the white imperialists gifted themselves huge chunks of land, and that's why they never completely left, because why were you going to go back to Europe and leave all those resources, all that huge chunk of free land? So now there's been an enactment in South Africa on the land expropriation bill, taking back that land. And Mr. Sanctions was not happy because his white people were touched. And he even came out to say that those refugees, according to him, of European descent needed to be given priority accommodation into, because I don't even know if there were any black anywhere who were going to seek his asylum or refugee, whatever that he's trying to offer. And this got me thinking. So, because I often talk about this in this channel, and I say, for us black people, our unity will mean our success, without which success will just be a far-fetched dream. We need this. The first step to our prosperity as black people, as a black community, in and out of Africa, in and out of America, in and out of the Caribbean, Europe and South America, and anywhere else, our unity has to come first. Such that if one of us is touched in America, even those in continental Africa stand together to fight for that one that has been touched. In Europe, the same. In Africa, we become one untouchable block. See, that is why when you touch a white man in South Africa, Donald Trump in America will be unhappy and will threaten with sanctions and freezing of aid, so on and so forth, because it's a white man. Because these people know the importance of a unified people, of a united community. And that is why their most successful tactic against we black people is the divide and rule tactic. And this is what we need to fight, continuously educate ourselves on. Sometimes we find black people, we always engage in petty politics of who is more African, who is more black than the other, who is from this nationality and who is not. And little do we know that these so-called countries and nationalities, we didn't even come up with them themselves. Across the entire world, no countries, no borders were drawn by black people exactly. The imperialists drew the borders and put us into cocoons and incited us against one another. So we do not unify. Sometimes I come across mean comments in this channel of people, say, outside of Africa or outside of my country, saying, don't talk about South Africa if you're not South African. Don't talk about Jamaica if you're not Jamaican. Don't talk about African Americans if you're not one, And I'm just surprised, because when shall we ever learn that whoever our opponent is exploiting our division to get the better of us? Now, on Ibrahim Traoré calling on Africans in the diaspora and African Americans or the descendants of African people to come back home, I don't love to be that person who romanticizes the coming back to the motherland, especially for African Americans, because it's easier said than done, but it is very possible. I say this because I personally have seen, know in person, and come across African Americans who managed to relocate from wherever and they got back to the motherland and have permanently resettled and restarted their lives in the land of their forefathers. But it is not that easy. The whole visa stories and acquiring citizenships, that is something that we need to really talk about more and try to bring it to the spotlight, so that we black people, those that are in positions of leadership and political leadership for that matter, can get to know this. And why not make it easy for African Americans to also come back home? If Donald Trump is making it easy for Afrikaners to go to America because they are white people, it's time for us to make it easy for African Americans to come back to Africa, to bring their experiences, their skills, their manpower to the motherland and stop the petty politics of division. Let's say personally, and let's just go down the rabbit hole. Personally, growing up, before I came to really try and educate myself on the dynamics of world politics, I really used to think that African Americans are really just Americans who happen to be black. Why? It is because of a whitewashed education system. So I want to appeal to my African American brothers. Sometimes they have had bad experiences trying to come back to the motherland because people did not accept them. But you see, this seed of division is sowed so deep amongst us black people that we don't even learn about history of black people. We are hardly taught about the transatlantic slave trade or slavery to begin with. So people don't know who these people are. They feel like they're just foreigners, and because they're coming from America, they're probably Americans who happen to be black. Until you are ready to educate yourself, go into the details and learn, then you will know that we are one people that have been separated for years, and the separation is disadvantageous to both sides. Those on the other side of the Atlantic, those on the other side in Europe, in Africa, and anywhere else. It is our division that they prey on every single time. Even inside our own countries, we fight against each other as nationalities. National boundaries that we didn't even draw ourselves. They didn't draw it because they wanted to help us get anything. They were dividing Africa for the benefit of themselves as white Europeans. So it is a system that is whitewashed from the very beginning, from the very start. Education in itself doesn't teach us about our history. And that's why we need to teach ourselves our own history and retell our own story. Again, we have to know now, back in a continent, that was for black Americans. In a continent of Africa, people need to know that these are sons and daughters of the soil that have been so far and long removed from the continent that they developed other means of surviving as a people, as a resilient people. They're not moving back into the continent just looking like everybody else in the continent, because of the years they've been away and the way they devised the means of survival. They came up with the culture, they came up with everything else that they needed to survive. So more tolerance is needed to take in each other and build on our unity, focus on that unity, and fight for ourselves. So what I'm trying to say here is integration might be challenging, but it is a responsibility for all of us, because without our unity, then our prosperity is far-fetched. It's just a dream. We need to work from both sides of the divide, outside of the continent and inside of the continent. Make it easy to have our people back home and realize what our differences are and try to sort that out and purpose for a united black people. That is that for today. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have something to say. If you like, you might drop me a comment, share and like this video, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel if you have not. Until next time, I'll be happy to see you in the next video. Peace out.